at any moment in our action, Kriya, there is a three-dimensional reality that happens. Whether you are aware of it or not, the Adi Bhautika, the Adi Devika, the Adi Atmika. The Adhyatmic reality is supreme reality. It is connected to your Atma. The Devika reality is what we do, Devakarya. It involves all that. Everybody has a requirement. There's some worldly need, some mundane reality. Food, shelter, clothing, education, family, physical level. And driven by an emotional need. The physical is always driven by an emotional need. In this emotional need, there is a space in the emotional need where there is a light of consciousness, the Divya spark in you. So, the understanding of our action, no matter how limited you think it has got a larger dimension evolved in it. This has to be taken into account very, very with lot of depth. We may be seen as throwing some trivias into the fire. This is the physical action. Then there is the mantras that are chanted, infused into this process. The mantra awakens the Adi Devika aspect. And by awakening the Adi Devika aspect of your action, you gain alignment with your Adhyatmic status. So all these three, an action that awakens positive progress in all three realities. That's the kind of action we should seek. What action? Action that benefits the entire universe. That is the right action. It's an innocent sacrifice into the fire. The Drivya does not know what's happening. It is the intention, the sankalpa of the doer that creates a new reality to this Drivya. The action that follows the Drivya, the intention that is infused in the Drivya. So there's always this war between, this conflict between the Deva Sampat and the Asuric Sampat. They say in Satya Yuga, the Devya Sampat and the Asuric Sampat were fighting from different planets, different lokas. Then they started fighting in the same loka. This is Dwapara Yuga, Ramayana story, all fighting the same. The first conflict was between Asuras and Devas in the churning of the Palkadal, ocean of Amrita, for Amrita. This was Asura Deva Sampat from different lokas. Then in Dwapara Yuga they came into the same loka, different locality, but same loka. They were having this conflict. Then in the next Yuga, it was in the same family, the Mahabharata. In Kali Yuga, it's in the same body. There is a Asura in you and there is a Divya in you. It's how you increase your frequency towards the Divya that determines your orientation. Sanatana Dharma, teachings and tradition drives you towards the Divya Sampat. It does not cancel materiality or mundane activities altogether, it downplays it. It gives more importance to Divya Sampat and less important to Asuric Sampat. It is there for a purpose, and with the right knowledge, you can transform it, bring it to a higher vibrational reality. Mantras are equated to vibration of your inner selves. And these divyas that you put in, infused with mantras, infused with sankalpas, infused with all intentions, and the circumambulation around the Oma Kunda creates a new vibrational spin with an upward spiral. That's why this structure is very important, because if you see the fire and the smoke from the fire creates an upward spiral. In the same way, inside your body, at the subtle level, sukshma, the sukshma rahasya of this activity is to create a upward spiral. All the physical reality is churned, boil up with the pitta vata kapha into an upward spiral. In this way, it raises your consciousness, and as a result of this raising of your consciousness, a certain experience of liberation, Paramananda, silence, peace, Shanti, Anand. These are all the Divya qualities. Swamiji, how we know if we have benefited from it? You have Shanti, no? You have Anand, no? You're sitting here in silence, no? This is the benefit. While sitting in this silence, all your Divya Sampats are getting awakened. You're allowing it. You get into trouble with life when you interfere with your Divya Sampat, with your own egocentric desires. This becomes self-centric. This is the Asura. Asura is the ego. The ego gone berserk. There's good ego also, you know. A good ego is one who does good seva, loka samrachana, fighting war to defend the country. Poor fella, you know, he has to go to the war front in the border, fight, so that all of us can sit here and do divya. See? So that is also an ego doing it, but an ego driven by dharma. This is important. You have to question yourself. When your ego rises from within you, the question you have to ask yourself every day, when you wake up, the first question you ask yourself is my ego driven by dharma or adharma? Is my ego driven by divya sampat or asuric sampat? This understanding is very important. So every moment in your life, as you take every step into your experiential reality, your anubhuti, your anubhava reality, ask yourself every step you take, is my action driven by dharma or adharma? Is my action driven by divya sampat or asuric sampat? How do we know this is divya sampat or asuric sampat? Asuric sampat will not give you paramanandam. It won't create paramanandam for everybody. There'll be some selfish action and you'll get small ananda, you know, chittinbam we call it, little ones. But it will be followed by a lot of misery. For example, if you take too much spicy food, you will enjoy the food, but later there'll be misery coming out from your stomach. You know, you'll be burning sensation, you'll have ulcer, you'll have other problems, just for a little bit of pleasure with food. So, this is how small, little ananda can create a lot of misery. So, the Divya Sampath will create continuous bliss, continuous Shanta, continuous good activities. It will continue to reproduce good action, good intention. Everybody becomes happy. Everybody becomes Shanti. This is how you know your action is Divya or not Divya. Because your action should be driven by the greater good, not individual. Your dharma should be the dharma for greater good. Because in this greater good, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, you are also included. Your family is included. Your little child is included. Your grandmother is included. Your grandfather is included. Dead or alive. See? Death is only to the body. It's a physical experience. Don't get too caught up with death. Death is a physical experience. It's a recycle process. So don't be too saddened by death and all that. That is just a physical process. Change of clothing. You'll realize that. If you don't realize it now, you'll realize it when you leave your body. It's just a clothing, change of clothing. So death is not the end. In fact, in some shastras, they say that's the beginning. The beginning of your astral experience. Then you actually, that's when you actually realize what you are, who you are, and where did you come from. Then again you enter another body and you slip into another state of forgetfulness, another state of dream, another state of what we call kalpita, kalpita vidya, another state of dream, maraital it's called. The veiling process starts. Again you go through this unveiling process with the help of a guru or a nice ashram community. Some awakening takes place of your divya samskaras. So this whole process is a battle within you, not outside. Don't take your battle outside. Husband and wife, same story. Don't take your battle to your husband or your wife or your spouse or your family. Fight the battle within. Churn the ocean inside with your. This morning we did pranayama, puraka rakshaka, puraka rakshaka, puraka rakshaka, churning, till the divya sampath rises. And what happens? There is calm, there is peace, there is clarity of purpose. When there is clarity of purpose, there is clarity of action. When there is clarity of purpose and action, there is clarity in the results. This is a very beautiful cycle. Create this cycle with the right sankalpa. Vetrivel Muruganukku.
We are always taught to map the results directly to our actions. You study n number of pages, you will get n number of marks. In fact, we used to have an equation back in college. You write 36 pages, you get 36 marks, which is the pass mark. So somehow we used to pull the answers to 36 pages so that at least 1 mark per page you get 36 marks. So your actions are directly mapped to the results. You study so many number of hours, you will get so many marks. And hence, we have always been, you put in so many hours of work, you get so much money. You put in extra amount of work, you get whatever it is, overtime work you get, payment you get. So the modern educational process has conditioned us to look at the direct relation and correlation between the action and phala. So much so that anything that we are not able to see the phala for, we hold ourselves from acting upon it. If we say Indian knowledge systems, the immediate question is, Will my child get a job if they study Indian knowledge systems? If I say Sanskritam, the immediate question is, will my child get good marks in 12th standard or get a good college admission if my child studies Sanskritam? Values are okay, but how many marks will my child get? One period a week, oh my God, it's difficult. Will the child not lose out on one physics chapter that could have been taught in that 1 hour of value education? So this is the question that the society keeps asking us. And hence, when we confront something like a yajna, again, we are not able to see the larger purpose, because when we put materials like ghee or the chandanam, kungumam, the various havis annam and all of that, how will this get transformed into the phala that I am looking for? Or, okay, people are talking of an adrishta phala. Do I need special glasses to be able to view this adrishta phala? Is the question that arises in the mind. And the only resolution possible that we see is through the right education. No matter how much I tell you that this is going to be transformed into a certain phala, there will always be this tinge of skepticism, because we have been taught to question everything and not proceed with Shraddha in the Rishi Parampara. Of course, in our classrooms, we are always told, shut up, don't ask questions and all of that. But then the fundamental inquiry has been transformed into doubts and samshaya and skepticism, that we are not able to have the necessary Shraddha in the Rishi Parampara. So the only way to do this is to have the right kind of education as early as possible in our lives. That is why one of our efforts has been to have in terms of a full spectrum of educational offerings. So whether it is a child that has been born just a few years ago, of course just born, we are yet to serve that segment at Anadi. But just born a few years ago, we have the Bala Gurukulam, where foundational values are offered. The foundational samskaras are built. So what is samskara versus what is jnana or knowledge, or what is vijnana? A child looks at a piece of paper on the street. The child decodes it, that it's a white color paper, it's a waste paper, it's a dirty paper, and all of that. It decodes that. That is a certain intellectual process. But the child naturally goes and picks up that piece of paper and puts it in the dustbin. It is samskara, without even going into decoding what kind of paper it is or what kind of material it is. So the initial stages, the entire body has to be prepared with the necessary samskaras, which we call as bodily intelligence or the muscle memory. That is why daily yoga abhyasa, even though the child is only 2.5, 3 years of age, whatever it can stretch, it will stretch and do. And whatever it can chant, it is made to chant, because the muscle memory, the intellectual memory, the brain memory, or whatever, the entire body is developed in this process. The samskara abhyasa happens in the age group of 3 to 5 years, before the intellectual development happens. The intellectual development can wait a bit. Without that waiting, in the modern education, we see that children with very small bodies, with young bodies, but high intellectual development. So the body and the intelligence, there is a mismatch. So the child feels frustrated in that. It has to proceed parallelly. That is why in our tradition, we have had these various stage-wise samskaras, and even including practices like the Surya Namaskara ensure that the body and the intellect grow in harmony with each other. There is no prematured development process that happens when the yoga abhyasa is offered in the right stages. At the level of primary education, of course, there is a lot of pratyaksha jnana that is focused on in our systems like the Swadharma Gurukulam that is located in Hyderabad. whatever abstract knowledge is there in terms of, could be scientific knowledge, could be Tridoshas, could be Nakshatra Vidya, could be Ganita, it is all brought to the Pratyaksha Anubhava of the child through various tools, activities and various materials that are there. So a Shadrasa is not just a conceptual thing, but offered as an experiential thing by actually tasting various materials and understanding the impact on the body. So when you bring the complex knowledge to the Pratyaksha Anubhava of the child, then there is an everlasting experience and knowledge that is built in the child. So the Anubhava leads to the Smriti. The repeated Anubhava leads to Smriti. Smriti means memory, which Maharishi Patanjali spoke about. Dirghakala Nairantarya Satkara Sevito Dridhabhumihi. When you do something for a sufficiently long period of time without a break, with a lot of enthusiasm and devotion, then you become established in that practice. So the entire aspect of the Swadharma Gurukulam type of a school or a Vidyalayam is to impart the necessary samskaras, impression the necessary concepts through the Pratyaksha Anubhava, bringing complex context into the direct experience of the child. But when the child grows up, when the child develops logical capabilities, they come to our residential Gurukulam. There is a process of inquiry, there is a process of questioning, and there is a process of experimentation that is involved. A lot of project-based learning happens at the residential Gurukulam at Palani, where children work with various materials and resources in order to understand what resources does it take in order to create something. The larger philosophical frameworks coming from the Nyaya Vaisheshika Shastras are also imparted at that stage, so that they decode the reality around them through the Bharatiya Drishti. Otherwise, we look at everything as materials. This is a chair, this is a table, this is a tree, this is a human being. This is how we develop Prithaktuva knowledge, separate knowledge of various things in terms of physics, chemistry, biology, atoms and cells and all of that. But if we have to develop an integrated perspective, Avibhaktanam Vibhakteshu, where the Tangnyanam Satvikam, Bhagavan Krishna says. He says that when we see the unified principle even in the separated things, that is called Satvika Jnana. And only Bharatiya Drishti can actually bring that integrated perspective. Otherwise, we would see, as Swamiji said, this country, that country, we will always be divided in our view thought process without realizing the unified principles. Of course, our Vyavahara should be actions, Vyavaharik action should be decisive, but the Drishti should be of Vedantic Drishti, where we see everything as unified. Only then, when we see ourselves as part of nature and nature as part of ourselves, we will refrain from harming nature. Will we ever pinch or hurt our own hand? It's not possible. Because we experience, we know that our hand is part of our body. Similarly, when we realize that nature is part of ourselves and we live in nature, then there is no way we would harm in nature. And that is the drishti we would wish to build in the children that grow up in Dharma Gurukulam at the ashram. It's a evolving process. Nothing happens overnight. And as the children grow up there, we have also evolved a 7-year program after their 10th, where they 2 years of 12th, 4 years of some kind of an undergraduate education, and 1 year of say internship and work, where there is a deeper possibility to look at the Shastras, even the Siddha knowledge, for example. What goes into the creation of this reality and how can I participate in this? Not accepting only the periodical table view of chemistry, where we say the atomic value changes and all of that, but developing the Siddha view of even the periodic table. The entire periodic table will look very different from when viewed from the Siddha perspective. Then one material can be transformed into another material given the necessary amount of sadhana, mantra, knowledge of the materials and working with the chemistry of the materials. Then space technology, living in another planet, modifying the breath, working in environments even without oxygen, all these become a possibility only when the children are introduced to the knowledge of the Siddhas, and that requires a certain purificatory processes, that requires a certain immersion, that requires a certain value system, which can only be built through a Gurukula education. That is why in these times, in the times of AI, investing in the Gurukula education becomes important. Otherwise, children will lose perspective of what is Panchabhautika reality and what is virtual reality. Once you immerse yourself in a game in virtual verse reality, the value systems that we apply in the Panchabhautika reality don't exist in the virtual verse reality. You can kill each other without getting arrested. You can steal another one's property without a legal binding. Unless, and of course, there is a game, it is already gamified there. You can manipulate anyone in virtual verse reality. In the virtual verse reality, there may or may not be the same dharmic, legal, ethical, moral frameworks there. So if the child is not educated on the right frameworks, then differentiating these becomes very difficult. And hence, investing in the Gurukula education becomes all the more important. But then the question arises, why should we offer this free of cost? Will the society take it very lax, unserious business if it is offered free of cost? We addressed it a little bit the other day itself. In the times when the GDP of Bharat was contributing to more than 20 to 30% of the world's GDP, education was completely free of cost. So now it should be, if at all we are thinking that Bharat is more advanced now, the world is more advanced now, then having it free of cost makes even more sense that way. Because it is an investment that the Samaja is making in the future generations, and the only Rina that will be there between the Vidyarthi and the Vidyalayam and the Acharya and the Guru will be that of Jnana and Seva, not the Rina of money. The child will not be viewed, the parent will not be viewed as a customer of the education where the services have to be offered to the customer who has paid. But in terms of creating the rishis of tomorrow who will be transforming the society or will be creating a better future, better future for all of us. And that is the Rina that we wish to build through all our systems. The initial thing was in terms of not having confidence, how do we manage it without money? But as we are taking baby steps towards that, we are gaining more confidence. So that is why from the next year onwards, right from our Bala Gurukulam up to our whatever stage of life that they want to educate to, we are completely making it free of cost. And we pray to Skanda that to keep it, to help us keep it that way. Yeah. If at all it is different, it will only be an indication of our inability and nothing more than that. But we are confident that all the Shaktis are coming together in order to support us in this process. And it is the large-heartedness of the Samaja which is being churned through this Yajna process. The Yajna process itself is the process of churning, where the large-heartedness of the various bhaktas of Muruga, Agastya Maharishi, the Siddhas emerge, who will support all these initiatives. Not just our initiative. There are so many wonderful initiatives going on throughout the world in order to offer the right Rishi Vidya to our children. And many of these initiatives should be supported. So with this prayer to Murugan and to the Samaja, to the large-hearted bhaktas, we offer ourselves, our intentions to this Yajna, that may the children of Bharat receive the Rishi Vidya in whatever means, in whatever form, in whatever way and forums possible, so that Bharat becomes the Vishwaguru it was and it is rapidly progressing towards. Om Muruga.